Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone to the How to Eat Anything You Want and Lose Weight This Holiday Season webinar, which is a mouthful, but I'm so glad that you're all here. When I was writing this, it felt a little kind of like hypey or too good to be true, but I really do want you guys to pay attention to the things that I'm sharing, because these are the principles that I've used, that I learned when I was about 22, when I was going through a really difficult period in my life, and I'll share about that in a minute. But this really is like, some of it's gonna sound, like crazy, really. I remember when I first read it, I was like, there's no way that this could possibly work, but just keep an open mind and let's get started. So I want to welcome you. Hello, and thank you all for coming. I know every one of you has a really busy life, and I want to acknowledge you for taking time, not just to listen to me, but really to hear this message. So that just says something about what you're up to and what's important to you. And I would love to be able to contribute to, any transformation that you have around your body, food, or fitness. And so thank you. And you should thank yourself too for making yourself a priority. So who is this chick? For those of you who don't know me, who is this chick and why should I listen to her? So that's a picture of me on the right in all my glory. So this is me pregnant with my second child. This was right around 2011. And so I'm going to share my story and about my body in a second. But I gained a good 54 pounds with each one of my pregnancies. And so I have, struggled with weight loss. This is me in 2014, having completed my first fitness competition at the age of 44, which for me was something outside the realm of possibility. So there's always what I tell women is there's always something that you think isn't possible for your body. And I like to push against that ceiling that we have for ourselves. And so, yes, this is great and awesome. I did this awesome thing. What was most amazing about the whole thing was what I actually had to go through, the belief system that I had to go through and continue to confront and continue to push through in order to do this. So I'm going to share my story in a second, but first, honestly, the things that I'm going to share with you, so these principles that I'm about to reveal, there are 4 of them, and they have to be used together. And you'll see why once you'll see the first one and you'll be like, sweet, and then you'll be like, oh, wait. And then the 4th one, you'll be like, okay. And all kinds of kind of comes together. So they will not work if you just pick and choose, which ones you want to do, and, oh, I'll do that one. It doesn't work that way. So just keep that in mind. So because of that, obviously, please stay till the end so you can learn all of them. And at the end, I will be giving a free gift for those of you as well. So a little bit about me, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but here's my story. So I was a skinny, scrawny, bony, wafy kid, and uncomfortable. People would comment on my body, and while it seems like it, for so many women, oh, I wish I was thin, it isn't comfortable to be different, whether that's heavy or whether that's thin. When you feel like you don't fit in or you're uncomfortable in your own skin, it really doesn't matter if it's thin or heavy. I was a skinny kid and could never gain weight and was just tall and lanky, and it really bothered me for a long time. And then I hit puberty and I filled out, and I was still not comfortable in my skin. Imagine that. And then in high school, I met a really great boy, and I fell in love, and he was awesome, and he was just an amazing athlete. And I had gained probably, 15 pounds or so, and again, wasn't comfortable in my skin. And he said, you'd have a really smoking body if you just worked out. And so I did. So I started working out because I thought, well, he'll love me more. I'll have more of his affection. Who doesn't want that? So I started working out. And fast forward a couple years, I'm in college and I'm really getting into this whole working out thing. And then I start dieting. So I was probably 21, 22 years old, and the relationship had ended. And at the time I was in the best shape of my life. I was super fit. I was thin, and I was dieting all day, doing all this fat-free stuff and no carbs and all this stuff. It was in the 90s. And then at night I was working out 2.5 hours a day. And then at night I'd come home and just be like, well, this sucks. Depriving myself of all the things that I really wanted. And I'd come home and I would just binge. So all those things that I wasn't allowing myself to have, they were off limits. They were not on my diet. So I started in this cycle of, it was just in place: exercise, diet restriction, come home, binge, feel terrible about myself, start the whole thing over. So this became my normal. So you can see this little graphic. It really shows, we diet because we think losing weight or being thinner is going to make us feel better. And dieting really sucks. Not being hungry and not feeling your body and having this feeling of restriction and I can't have, this or that. You start to feel deprived. And then you have this, it's like overwhelming urge to have the things that you are not allowed to have. And of course I'm using air quotes. And then ultimately you binge, and then you feel out of control and ashamed. And then it's just this cycle. And I stayed in this cycle for what felt like forever. It was months and months and months. And then it culminated in an epic binge. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And what had me get out of that cycle was the principles that I'm going to teach you, the principles that I learned that I'm going to share with you today. So my epic binge is a little different than Tina Fey's here. It was on a package of cookies, I believe, but I just love this picture. I had worked all day, again, dieting, working out 2.5 hours a day, came home, and really what was going on with me was, yes, this restriction thing, but looking back, I was very lonely. I wasn't in a relationship, and I really wanted to be. And so I would comfort myself with food, cookies and all the things that taste really great. They taste really great in the moment. And that was for me what I was using for comfort. And that night, what happened was I ate almost a whole package of cookies, and I ended up in the bathroom, and I attempted to stick my finger down my throat and make myself throw up. And I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the guts. I didn't have the stomach for it. I just couldn't. And so I downed a bunch of laxatives. And on that night, I knew that I was in trouble, and I knew that I needed help because I was not willing to have it go anywhere past that. And so I found a book, and I truly believe that that book saved my life. And so these are the principles that I learned in the book, and I want to share them with you. Principle number 1, eat when you're hungry. So, okay, that's fine. Right, when I remember reading it thinking, all right, well, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry. Okay, I had to really discover what hunger felt like and looked like. How hungry was I willing to let myself get? Was I comfortable being hungry? And I really wasn't. Hunger to me meant deprivation and sadness and loneliness. I didn't like it. I liked feeling full and satisfied. And, you have the physical fullness, but emotionally, food can't handle, food isn't that's not food's job. So eat when you're hungry was the first principle. So I love this one. So, at the time it was like, I swear, and I say this and it really felt like the truth. I feel like every waking moment I was thinking about food. It was, what am I going to eat? What can't I eat? What do I wish I could eat? What shouldn't I have eaten? What should I have eaten? I mean, it consumed me. So I really felt completely out of control. So eating when I'm hungry felt like I didn't even know what that meant. But here's the catch. So if you haven't figured it out, if I can only eat when I'm hungry, what does that mean? It means I can't eat when I'm bored or lonely or depressed or scared or stressed or sad. And so ultimately, I actually had to figure out, okay, so if I am not hungry, what am I feeling that I want to use food for in this moment? And that was that was when I really discovered that I was lonely and I wanted to be in a relationship. And when I could actually not use food to cover that up and actually deal with what that was, that loneliness, that sadness, that lack of intimacy with another person, then I could, the grip that food had on me started to lessen. Now, I had to learn these other principles. We'll talk about those in a minute. But remember, I love food, and I think we should love food. I strongly encourage you to love food, but food doesn't love us back. And I think what happens when we are out of touch with true hunger, physical hunger, and we're using food for emotional hunger, then that's when the pounds pack on. That's when we become obsessive. That's when we do things like this binge diet, restriction, shame cycle. And that was the thing that I was on that I had no idea how to get off of. And so, this poor guy is just so in love with pizza, but pizza doesn't love you back, right? I mean, it just doesn't. So pizza pillow, pizza phone. And so, we're always ending up, if we are using food in this way, we end up unsatisfied because food doesn't love us back, because that's not really what we want. So here's principle number 2. Eat sitting down in a calm environment with no distractions. So what does that mean? A lot of the women that I work with are super busy, and they don't have time, right? They've got kids, or they've got businesses, or they've got people relying on them, or they've got companies that they're running, or all of these things that are could be considered a distraction. And so it's one of the bigger challenges is when we don't sit down. First of all, we're not present with our food. When you're not present with your food, there's a lack of enjoyment. When we're doing, eating food, but doing 1 or 2 or 3 other things, watching TV, reading books, driving in our car, we're not present to our hunger. So physical hunger. And then B, we're really not present to the food that we're eating. Is it what we want? Does it taste good? Is this what my body wants right now? Do I want something cold or hot or cool or spicy? We're completely out of touch, and we're not in the present moment. And if you're not there when you eat, then you miss some of the most amazing aspects of food, all the texture and tastes and your satisfaction, and being connected to your level of physical satiety. So when we are doing other things and we're eating, it's harder for us to determine when we're getting full. Right? How many of us know what, So when I say don't eat, eat in a distraction-free environment, I think for a lot of us, especially women, the first thing that pops into so many women's minds is, I don't have time. Like, I've got to multitask. I've got to do 3 things at one time. And I remember my husband explained to me, and I used to think that he was crazy. He explained to me, multitasking is a myth. And it really is true. Your brain can do 2 things. One's in the background, but your brain really can only focus on one thing at a time. And so you're either doing both of those things half-ass, or you're ineffective. So I've learned I tell people I'm a recovering multitasker, because I really do try to do what I'm doing when I'm doing it. So you do have time, even if your life looks like this. Sometimes I feel like this is what my life looks like, right? If we really want to sit down and have a meal, we maybe just have to prioritize the schedule a little bit different. All right, here is principle number 3. That is my phone. And it's not principle number 3. This is good. So eat what your body wants with enjoyment, gusto, and pleasure. And here's what's so great about this. You can see if you just did just principle number 3, this would not work for you. There would be no way that you could do this and have the promise that I told you, right? So eat whatever you want and lose weight. Like, this truly is the way that I've eaten since I learned these principles when I was 21, 22 years old. It got me in touch with true hunger. But how many of you can say that you actually eat what you want, and you eat it with enjoyment, you eat it with pleasure, you eat it with gusto, you're there, you're eating it, you're owning it. You know, some of us hide stuff. Some of us are, closet snackers. Some of us eat healthy foods in front of people, but we eat our cheeseburgers and chocolate cakes, when we're alone. So this is all on display in full view of others because you deserve this, right? So there's this whole notion that if I'm heavy or if I have weight to lose or if I don't like what I see in the mirror, I shouldn't be eating X, Y, or Z. So here's what's great about this one. Yeah. No food is off limits. No food is bad. No food is wrong. Because what happened to me when I was doing this diet binge cycle, I would have all these foods that I didn't allow myself to have, right? I would be dieting all day. And then at night, it'd be like, screw it. I want all that stuff that I can't have. So when we put something off limits, when we say, I can't have that, there's the draw, right? What we resist persists. So when we take the judgment off of foods, now listen, I've been a fitness professional for going on 12 years now. I have an amazing nutrition line that I use, that I have helped people use to lose weight. There are foods that are going to support your body's systems. They're nutritionally dense foods that our bodies need. Our bodies need vitamins. They need minerals, right? And then there's food that are nutrient deficient, right? Empty. But none of those are good, bad, or indifferent. They're just what you're eating. They're what you're choosing. So when we can take the stigma off of certain foods, right? So if I told you there is no bad food, there is nothing that's off limits. I remember this. I was like, well, I'm going to just go hog wild. Well, no, you're not, because you got to use all the principles together, right? You eat when you're hungry. If you're not hungry, no food. When you're hungry, yes. What is it that you want? And then no judgment about it. So if you're not judging the food that you're putting in your mouth, you're not judging yourself. So because there's a huge collapse here, there's a huge, we do this thing where if we eat foods that are, using air quotes over here, bad, what does that make us? That makes us bad. This is where the freedom happens. When you stop judging whether a food is good or bad, which means you're judging whether you are good or bad, you have freedom of choice. And you can choose. You can really choose. I remember when I was, actively in my boot camp and I was helping women with their weight loss and their goals. And the conversation that I wanted to have with them had nothing to do with carbs or proteins or nutrient timing or calorie. Like I knew, having gone through what I went through, that this is the conversation that makes the biggest difference. Because if you don't get these principles, you can't choose to eat healthy foods, because healthy foods are restriction, diet, chastisement. Oh, I have to eat this diet stuff because I've got to lose weight, whatever the conversation is. So I love this. To all you women out there who can eat whatever you want, still stay skinny, I hate you. Well, here's the thing. If you're listening to your body and you're eating when you're hungry and you are eating without distraction, so you're present, and you are eating what your body wants with enjoyment, gusto, and pleasure, you are going to, when we have to kind of factor in principle number 4 here, you're going to eat what you want, and you're going to lose weight. Trust me when I tell you that this works. Principle number 4. This is the period to on this conversation. It's the period. Principle number 4 is you must eat in full view of others until you are satisfied. So, number 1, we eat when we're hungry. Number 2, we eat sitting down in a calm environment without distraction. Number 3, we eat what we want. We ask ourselves, well, what is it that I want? And we eat it with enjoyment and pleasure, no judgments around it. And then number 4 is we eat in full view of others until we're satisfied. Well, what does that look like, right? So no more hiding foods, no more foods that are bad, because that's the conversation. If I'm eating foods that are bad, I'm bad. So I wanted to just share with you this. It's a hunger scale, right? So I tell my clients, you're going to start to eat right in here, 3 or 4. If you wait too long, you're obviously physiologically your blood sugar is going to drop. You're going to be so hungry that you're going to eat. It's going to feel like we've all been there, right? It feels like you're going to eat whatever's not tied down. I say number 1 is I'm going to eat my own arm off. And then we stop, and this is where presence comes in, right? So how am I doing right now? How am I feeling? Does this taste good? Do I want something else? Am I full? Am I satisfied? And satisfaction is physical, like the connection that you have with your stomach is, am I full? If I'm not, then keep eating. But if I am physically satisfied, you should be stopping right around here, right? So we want to live right in this area. Okay, so this might seem very overwhelming, right? So how do I do all that? Remember, you have to do all 4 principles together. They don't work. All 4 together. How do you do that? Here's the deal. First of all, go get the book. This is the book that I read in 1990. I don't remember 2, and this was the one that I found like the next day after I almost made myself throw up. And to me, that was a really, really scary time. I mean, there was nothing good about that time. Nothing good was going on. And I read this book, and these are the principles that she covers. This is where I learned these principles. And they work. They release you from food, from the obsessive nature that we have around our bodies, around our weight, around food. Because listen, we walk around in this thing called our body, right? And if it's got any extra weight on it, that just means to people out there seeing you, something's going on with you in food, right? I mean, we know that. And we get to choose what we eat. So there's this whole conversation around, well, I'm a bad person because I've got this extra weight on me, and how come I can't get this part of my life handled? Like for me, this was just, I was so obsessed, and my thoughts were so obsessed about food. I was going to read this book and do everything in the book as if my life depended on it, because I really truly felt like it did. The second thing I always coach my clients on is, love yourself enough to take a new action. So I'm presenting these principles that when I first heard them, first of all, I was afraid because I thought, well, I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to eat whatever I want and to stop. And I was willing to do everything that she said in the books. And because I started to see it lessen, I started to see myself have freedom. And now it's like night and day. And then get support, honestly, really. If you don't have a coach, it's one of those things. I recently did my Stop Waiting live workshop back last month, and it was unbelievable. And I've been talking about doing this realistically, I've been talking about doing this for 4 years, actively talking about it, thinking about it for way more than that. So if taking on your weight is something that you've been talking about and thinking about and worrying about and wanting to do, the thing that made the biggest difference for me in actually producing my workshop was getting a coach. And I had a coach, and in 6 months, this workshop was up and running. And, when you want to produce a result in an area of life that you haven't been able to produce before, that's usually the game changer. So I have a program starting next week, and it is designed to start right before the holidays, because this is where the rubber meets the road. It is, we're going into this stressful season. We're going into all this, amazing food that's going to be all around us. How do we put these principles into play? So in the workshop, and I'll talk about exactly what happens in a minute, we have a 28-page workbook, and we get to go through all these different sections, and we have conversations, and obviously food is a big piece of that. So we do 5 modules over the 12 weeks, and we deal with the food piece for four of those weeks, because it's a big deal. In the first week of the module, we learn the module, and then we go out into life and we practice it. And then we come back and we talk about breakdowns, breakthroughs. We deepen the conversation. This is where the coaching happens. Well, what did you come up against? This is where we deepen the level of interaction around this. These are the modules. So we talk about, it's not about your weight. It's about the relationship you have or the feelings that you have about your weight or your body. So food is your friend. This is the whole Janine Roth. This is the whole 4 principles that I just discussed. Getting a vision. So getting really clear on what you want and then getting really clear on why you want it. Because if you don't have a vision for your body, it's like anything. If you don't have a vision for what you want and a burning desire for why you want it, we do this this exercise called 7 levels deep. And if you've never done it, it's a game changer, because you'll say, I want X. And then I'll say, okay, great. Let's go make that happen. Why do you want it? And we'll go 7 levels deep and discover truly what is your driving force. So having that vision, there is no willpower involved in any of this stuff. Willpower is a myth. Discipline and commitment is one thing. Willpower, I don't believe in. I truly don't. It's a choice. But until you can actually release this whole diet restriction mentality around food, then don't even bother. This program is laying the foundation for, if you ever really want to get food handled and ever really want to have lasting, change the conversation that you have about your body, about food, about fitness, about what's possible for you. This is the conversation to get into. So creating a vision that really, really lights you up. Let nothing stand in your way. This section is all about obstacles. How many of us have obstacles? I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I'm a single mom. My husband doesn't support me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm injured. I only have one leg. No, seriously, at my workshop, I had a fitness competitor with one leg who's just my hero. Like, I love this woman. She's fantastic, phenomenal. So how do we deal with obstacles? What do we do in the face of, oh shoot, something came up, or whatever it is that comes up for you that gets in the way, we deal with that. And then declaring a super awesome performance goal. Notice I didn't say fitness goal. I want, at the very end of my boot camp, I was starting to work with women from less of a how much do you weigh standpoint to what can your body do? Because how much your body weighs is really irrelevant. When you're working towards a goal that is lighting you up, that you're like, holy crap, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but this would be phenomenal if I could do that. For me, that was the fitness competition. When you're working towards something like that, you're lit up. I mean, you're just lit up, and you start to see performance. You start to shift your perspective from what does the scale say to what does my body say? What can my body do? Is it push-ups? Is it pull-ups? Is it run a marathon? Is it, do a Spartan race? I don't know, but this is what makes it actually fun. There's 16 spots. I'm keeping the number of participants in the group equal, because we're going to be doing some partner work and that kind of stuff. Partner and group work, and really the structure of the program is accountability, structure, and support, which is going to help you get where you want to go. Learning this new way to deal with food, you're going to have breakdowns, but the group environment is really the way to give you a level of accountability and support that doing it yourself just doesn't cut it. Trust me, my coach is on this call. And this whole program right here just wouldn't even be possible without her accountability, like me being accountable to her. So here are your options for doing this 12-week program. Option 1, pay in full, $450 for the whole 12 weeks. Option 2, you get to do it over 2 payments. So 2 payments of $275. And then option 3 is 3 monthly payments of $199. So obviously you pay, or you save if you can just pay everything up front in full. If you do register today, I will throw in a half-hour private coaching call with me, which is valued at $100. And then every one of you is going to receive the Stop Waiting workbook. So once we're done with the call, I'm going to send you out the workbook. It's 28 pages. This is the companion to the workshop. You're going to get it. So that's going to be your free gift for staying on the line. And there's a reason why you decided to listen in today. And I invite you to get real with yourself. And this is really truly what we discover, what we do in the program is, what do you want? Why do you want it? How long have you wanted it? And when will it be time for you to finally have it? Because one of the things that we do when we discover your why, and we do this kind of 7 levels deep exercise, you're going to have your own why. My why for living in my best body and putting good food into my body is, I'm an older parent. I had my first kid when I was 37. And so my big why is to stay on the planet so I can be with my kids for as long as possible. That really is one of my biggest whys. The other one is, I want to be a role model to my girls. I don't want my girls to grow up feeling that their worth is in their weight. I'm tired of that conversation. It's done. This is why I do what I do, because I want to transform that conversation. I want to help women transform that conversation about themselves. And one of the things that I suggest to my clients is that part of your why could be it just could be the cherry on top, is that you declare because you deserve it. When stuff gets hard and you're dealing with roadblocks or obstacles or I don't wanna's, or it's cold out, or I'm tired, or I'm hurting, whatever it is, you're going to need something to ground to as your vision. And that's that's where you get your commitment, your integrity, your word. So producing results even when you don't want to, is that why. And because you deserve it, I believe deserves to be on your list. So you can register here. It's stopwaiting.love. That is my website. And then I'll take you to my registration page, and you can have, all 3 options are on there. Listen, I invite all of you, if you're on the fence, if you have questions, call me, text me, let me know. Otherwise, there's a voice in your head, and we deal with her. I call her the bully, and we do a lot in the workshop to banish the bully. It's the voice right now that's like, oh, you don't have time for that, or that's a lot of money, or you know what, you're probably it's just gonna be like that last program that you tried, right? She's talking to you right now. If I stop talking, you'll hear her. She might even say something about me, like, she's annoying, right? I don't know what she's saying, but that is the voice that is not your friend. It's not you, and she's not your friend, and she's the one keeping you from getting what you really want. So you are loved. It's time to start acting like it. And I want to thank you for being on the call, right? I promised that it was going to be 35 minutes, and I'm over by 2. But I want to just unmute, and if there's any questions, I'm going to unmute everyone. So if there's any background noise, you might want to keep yourself muted. Any questions, or any questions that I can answer? None. Okay. Well, again, if you have any questions and you don't want to do it on the call, you can text me, you can email me, and we can figure out how to get you, where you want to go to the next level. And thank you so much for taking the time out. Get the book. I will be emailing you the workbook, and you can use that workbook in companion with Janine's book. That is, if you decide that you wanted to do the workshop, the book, Janine's book, is a prerequisite for participating. All right. Any questions? Is that you, Lori? You're so cute. All right, guys. Thank you. Love you guys. Take care. Bye.